just that little bit of driving I had to do midday after it wasn't going to have any harsh traffic was enough to kind of sharpen my I've actually lost complete track of what I was going to say because I've actually said too many things without having a clear. I'm so used to having to draft memos and letters. Conversational language is actually quite beyond my capacity, and my comfort zone is primarily to turn into white collar professional, dual mode sort of anthropologist, psychologist, emergency preparedness, all of the professional type journalist, reporting, documenting, legal secretary I was before I was in government. And the blogging has kept me able. Well, it's sort of memo reporting, but I'm able to strike a more conversational, personal tone, and a lot of that's been achieved by doing like the writer chat and conversational bits with other people to bring out a tone. And I'm really kind of enjoying the more radio DJ, and part of that is actually playing the songs that I used to play when I was a DJ, and that's really just it. I'm trying to figure out who I am by revisiting who I had been. And so much of what we take of identity is what we do, and I don't have, an identity like that anymore. And it's funny because now what it puts me in the mind of is many years ago I was, I can't remember if it was the first or the second time I was on the board of Women in Film. I think it must have been the first time because I was connected to the newsletter committee, so I got press credentials to go to the International Film Festival convention side. That's not the movies, that's the workshops for the industry people. And I don't remember the screenwriter's name. He was an American guy. He was one of the screenwriters of the movie Sahara that Matthew McConaughey, who I can't stand, was starring in, and based on a series of books by a writer I also can't stand. And I like to refer to that genre as zipper grippers, sort of like the male version of the female bodice ripper, where the guy's just over the top skilled, and everyone is swooning over him, whatever, and he's over a little hyper heterosexual, if you know what I mean there. Anyway, so I had wanted to ask him. I actually just wanted to get that zipper gripper expression in the scrum of screenwriters who were all fawning over this guy. And I noticed a woman sitting off in the corner, and I've been to enough industry parties to know that that's a spouse. And if you really want to work an industry party, get to know the spouses, because they've got an in like nobody else. And so anyways, I wasn't trying to smooch. I just didn't want to leave the event, and I just wanted to have a conversation. And so I sat down beside her and I said hi and introduced myself. And it astonished me that she looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm nobody." And I said, "Well, your parents must have given you a name." And so she laughed and she told me her name, and I said, "Well," and then she said, "Well, I'm not really anybody in the conference, I'm his wife." And I said, "Well, you're still a person with a life and interest of your own, and, does that mean I can't talk to you just because you're not here in an official capacity?" And she was so stunned, and so we ended up having a conversation, and, I said, "Well, what do you do?" And I was astonished that she all of a sudden got ashamed, and I thought, what can you be doing that you'd be, you defense ministry worker, or, chemical weapons, like what, can you be doing? And she said, "Well, we have 2 children, and I'm a stay-at-home mom." And I said, "Well, that must present its own challenges." And she was so astonished, that somebody didn't run her down for doing that. But, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to replace the population, and someone needs to mind them. And, someone wants to choose to do that, more power to you. Whether you choose to do a career path or, take a more personal path of a different kind of a journey. That's, I had pets. That was my choice. And because I can put them in the kennel and I get applauded for that, and someone with kids does that and it's, frowned on. Anyway, so it was a pretty, I think, unique experience for her because, we got into a conversation about things, and really you lose track of time when you're enjoying yourself in a conversation, and all of a sudden we both looked up and there he was, with having the unique situation of having to wait for his wife having a conversation with someone, and he was smiling and enjoying that she was finally at an event where she was having a good time. That she ended up insisting that I talk to him, and so it was like another hour before I left, because then, the three of us ended up, talking more, and there isn't anybody who's nobody, and to be made to feel like you're nobody, and not only to be bullied, but to have to go through the process of basically being put in a position to being begged to be listened to, and being the only person not deemed a credible witness or a reliable witness, and there's a hummingbird in the honeysuckle. Craving indifference. I'm just gonna see if I can get it. No, it's gone. I love hummingbirds. You know what? I think I'm just gonna upload this without listening again, because I'm trying to document my thought process and my ability to gather and think of thoughts, and what happens, because what's really going on for me is I have suppressed my emotions for so long, and my whole way of, it remains difficult for me to make eye contact, and there's not even a person here, I can't look at the camera, and yeah, now I'm uncomfortable, and the idea of having to continue to document. The only process I have left to go is a human rights complaint at the federal level, and it's frustrating because I would have a better chance at the provincial level, and I am a British Columbian, but because I was in a federal workplace, then the federal one applies, which, as a federal employee, knowing that the building code standards, that if it's federal, provincial, or municipal, whichever one is stricter applies, it occurs to me that if you have a conflict between whether it's a federal or provincial, then whichever one is more generous to the potential victim should be the one that is actually in place, because the process of, have an incident and then having to, prepare to go through a corrective process, and, I can't imagine what this process would be like for someone where the perpetrator was an unknown. I tell people that, the only people I really relate to, were Holocaust survivors or war zone veterans, and it's not actually true, because I also relate to people who were victims of serial killers who managed to survive it, or, a serial abductor, to a degree, and there's a certain amount of hesitancy to say that, because it is the way people react when you compare sexual assault and physical assault to verbal, emotional, and psychological assault, and but knowing how those combine, when you're physically assaulted, there's a psychological impact, and when you're psychologically assaulted, the health issues then become the physical impact. And yeah, that actually makes me want to throw up, that sound. So I'm gonna upload this now.